He was the voice that made millions swoon, the hips that caused riots, the man who had women throwing hotel room keys onto the stage every single night. But today, Tom Jones is living a life most people would never expect. And the story of how he got here will break your heart and rebuild it all over again. This is the untold journey of a legend who refused to fade away. Picture this. It's 1965. A coal miner's son from Wales walks into a recording studio in London. He's 24 years old, broke and terrified. He's been singing in pubs for pocket change, watching his dreams slip further away with each passing day. His wife is back home with their young son, wondering if they'll ever escape poverty. And then he opens his mouth. The producers freeze. The room goes silent. Because what comes out isn't just a voice. It's thunder wrapped in velvet. That song. It's not unusual. And within weeks, Tom Jones becomes a household name across the globe. But let's rewind even further. Because to understand Tom Jones, you have to understand where he came from. Born Thomas John Woodward in 1940 in Pontypridd, Wales. Tom grew up in a world where survival meant working in the mines just like his father. The streets were narrow. The houses were cramped. And the dreams, well, those were luxuries most families couldn't afford. But Tom had something nobody could take away from him. A voice that could shatter glass and mend broken hearts in the same breath at 12 years old. He was diagnosed with tuberculosis. For 2 years, he was bedridden, fighting for his life. And during those long, lonely hours, he did the only thing that made sense. He sang. He listened to the radio, absorbing every note, every rhythm, every inflection. Gospel, blues, country, rock and roll. He soaked it all in like a sponge. And when he finally recovered, he wasn't just healthy. He was hungry. At 16, Tom met Melinda Trenchard at a bus stop. She was beautiful, shy, kind, and he fell hard. They married when he was just 17, and a month later, their son Mark was born. Suddenly, Tom wasn't just a dreamer anymore. He was a husband, a father, a provider, and the weight of that responsibility nearly crushed him. He worked construction jobs during the day and sang in pubs at night, scraping together every shilling he could. But the money was never enough. The gigs were small. The audiences were drunk. And the dream of making it big felt like it was slipping through his fingers. Melinda would watch him come home exhausted, covered in dust, his voice hoarse from performing to rooms that barely cared. And she'd hold his hand and whisper, "Don't give up." So he didn't. In 1963, Tom joined a band called Tommy Scott and the Senators. They played clubs, weddings, anywhere that would have them. And then one night, everything changed. A manager named Gordon Mills walked into one of their shows. He stood in the back, arms crossed, watching this young man from Wales command the stage like he owned it. And when Tom hit the final note of the night, Gordon knew he'd just witnessed something rare. Something electric. Gordon became Tom's manager and changed his name from Tommy Scott to Tom Jones. Simple, strong, unforgettable. And then Gordon handed him a song that nobody else wanted to record. It's not unusual. The demo had been rejected by other artists. It was quirky, different, risky, but Tom heard something in it. A spark, a chance. So he recorded it, and the world exploded. The song shot to #1 in the UK. It cracked the top 10 in the United States. And suddenly, Tom Jones wasn't just a singer. He was a phenomenon. Women screamed his name. Men wanted to be him, and Tom. He was just trying to keep his head above water because fame, he quickly learned, was a beast with sharp teeth. By the late 60s, Tom was everywhere. Television specials, sold-out concerts, Las Vegas residencies. His voice could swing from raw power to tender vulnerability in a heartbeat, and audiences couldn't get enough. Songs like Delilah, Green Green Grass of Home, and What's New Pussycat became anthems. His performances were legendary. The sweat, the passion, the way he'd grip the microphone like he was holding on to life itself. And of course, the underwear. Yes, women literally threw their underwear at him on stage. It became part of the Tom Jones experience. Wild, unpredictable, intoxicating, but behind the velvet voice and the tight pants. Tom was drowning. The fame came with temptation. Lots of it, and Tom, by his own admission, didn't resist. The affairs were countless. Models, dancers, fans. He's been open about it in interviews, calling himself weak, saying he got caught up in the madness of it all. And back home in Wales, Melinda knew. She always knew. But she stayed. She raised their son. She kept the home fires burning while Tom conquered the world. And the guilt? It aided him every single day. In 1987, Tom's world tilted on its axis. A woman named Catherine Berkery claimed Tom was the father of her son, Jonathan. Tom denied it vehemently, but a DNA test proved otherwise. He was ordered to pay child support, but he refused to have a relationship with Jonathan. To this day, Jonathan has spoken publicly about the pain of being rejected by his father. About growing up knowing Tom Jones was his dad, but never feeling like his son. And Tom, he's admitted he's not proud of how he handled it, that it's one of his deepest regrets. But the real heartbreak was still to come. For 59 years, Melinda stood by Tom. Through the fame, the affairs, the chaos. She was his anchor, his conscience, his home. And in 2016, after a short battle with cancer, she passed away. Tom was devastated, shattered. He later said he couldn't even be in the same country where she died. The guilt, the grief, the realization that he'd taken her for granted for so many years. It nearly destroyed him. He moved to London, away from their Los Angeles home, because the memories were too heavy. He stopped performing for months. Friends worried he might never come back. Because how do you sing about love and loss when the love of your life is gone and you're the reason she spent so many nights crying? But then something remarkable happened. Tom started to heal. Slowly, painfully, but surely. He returned to music not as an escape, but as a tribute. He recorded albums that were raw and honest. He sang about regret, about love, about time slipping away. And his voice, even in his 70s and now his 80s, still carried that same power, that same ache. Because pain, it turns out, makes art even more beautiful. In recent years, Tom has experienced a renaissance. He became a coach on The Voice UK, introducing himself to a whole new generation. He's collaborated with younger artists. He's performed at Glastonbury. He's been knighted by Queen Elizabeth II, Sir Tom Jones, the boy from the Welsh Valleys who once thought he'd spend his life in the mines now has a title and a legacy that will outlive us all. But here's the thing. Tom doesn't live in the past. He doesn't rest on his laurels. He's still touring, still recording, still pushing himself to be better. At 84 years old, he's proof that age is just a number when your passion refuses to die. He walks onto stages around the world, and the audience still roars, because they remember. They remember the young man who sang with fire in his belly. And they see the older man who sings now with wisdom in his soul. Tom has also become more reflective. In interviews, he talks about Melinda with a tenderness that's hard to watch. He calls her his soulmate, his everything. And he admits that if he could do it all over again, he'd do it differently. He'd be faithful. He'd be present. He'd be the husband she deserved. But he can't go back. None of us can. All we can do is move forward and try to be better. And that's exactly what Tom is doing. He's reconnected with his son Mark, who now manages his career. He's mended some fences. He's let go of some of the ego that fame built around him. And he's learned to live with his regrets instead of running from them. Because that's what surviving does to you. It softens the edges. It teaches you that success means nothing if you lose the people who loved you before the world knew your name. Tom Jones today is a man at peace. Not because his life was perfect, but because he's finally accepted that it wasn't. He's no longer the wild, untouchable star who could do no wrong. He's human, flawed, grateful, and still, somehow, that voice remains. A gift that time couldn't steal. So what is Tom Jones' life now? It's quieter, more intentional. He spends time in his London flat, surrounded by memories and music. He still writes, still records, still finds joy in the craft that saved his life all those years ago. He doesn't chase fame anymore. He doesn't need to. Because he's learned that the real measure of a life isn't how many people know your name. It's how deeply you've loved, how honestly you've lived, and how gracefully you faced your own mistakes. Tom Jones is still here, still singing, still standing. And his story reminds us that legends aren't born perfect. They're forged through fire, mistakes, heartbreak, and the courage to keep going even when the spotlight fades. Because the show, as they say, must go on. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join the Luminoir family. We bring you the untold stories of the stars you thought you knew. And trust us, there's so much more to uncover.